Hello and welcome to another of GameSpot's fast becoming patented live stream extravaganzas for embargoes.
Officially it says spectacular.
Spectacular, I'm sorry to use the wrong word there, Mark. I'm Guy, this is Mark.
Hello.
And we're back with The Cave. Now, Mark has just put the finishing touches to his review, which is live now.
It is live now.
I hope and expect.
I'm sure our very own Sarah Lynch is working hard at getting you the liveness.
So you can now reveal what you thought of the game, but actually before that, let's talk a little bit about what it is.
Well, it's a game by Ron Gilbert, who is a very famous game writer, designer guy, who worked with Tim Schafer on games like Monkey Island, Manic Mansion, games like that. Very funny is what people mostly remember from his games, and there's an element of that in The Cave, which is nice.
So The Cave launches, it launches very shortly, January 23rd, so tomorrow on Steam, PC, Mac, Linux, Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, and Wii U eShop.
Everything.
Pretty much everything.
Everything you possibly want.
You've been playing the Xbox 360 version, which is what we can see here.
Danny O'Dwyer's playing this right now.
Danny, I didn't introduce you. I was awfully rude of me. Say hello for the live streamers.
Hello, je suis dans le cave.
Le Cave, you say.
Look at that face.
In Europe.
Look at it. It's a beautiful thing.
What a pro. What a pro he is. So explain a little bit about what's happening here. This is towards the beginning of the game. You play as many different characters.
Yeah, so one of the things about this game is that you play as many characters. Like you say, there are 7 to choose from, and you can only play with 3 at a time on each playthrough.
Right.
So the idea is that each character has his or her own special ability, and that ability is showcased in a special section in the cave that you only see if you're playing as that character. So here he's playing as the knight. The knight's special ability is to be invulnerable, which happens when Danny presses Y after you pull this lever. There you go.
Lever? Lever?
Lever. I don't know.
Let's call the whole thing off.
I'm sorry. These Americanisms. I need to stop it. So he's also playing as the twins here, whose special ability is to basically replicate themselves as a ghost. And that's used in really unique ways as you play through the game. So the only way to see everything in the game is to play through it more than once.
Right. 7 times or
No.
not?
So 3 times technically.
3 times.
So you can play it with 3 characters the first time, another 3 the second time, and then you've got 1 left, which you sort of have to just do on his own. Well, you can't do it on his own, but sort of with another 2 that you've already done.
So one of the things that we'll cover off later, one of the things we're missing right now is the fact that this is multiplayer. It's meant to be played. Would you say it's meant to be played?
I'd argue it's meant to be played single player. To be perfectly honest with you, I think that when you play it with 3 people, it doesn't quite work. So when you play it on your own, you can switch characters at any time by using the D-pad. One of the irritating things I found about the game was it's a weird mechanic to get used to. When you start playing, you expect the other characters to follow you.
Yeah.
It's sort of how it's done. Here, they don't.
Right.
They stay where they are, and the reason for that is because sometimes you need to plant characters in different areas to solve puzzles. But it takes a while to adapt to that. If you're playing with 3 people, people get bored and they tend to jump around a bit. They're like, because you've got to wander off on your own for a long time to go do something and then come back to the other characters to get them to do something. So after a while, you just get bored and then you end up griefing everyone.
Right, exactly.
You can
that's something natural in a multiplayer platformer, though.
I know, but it's not. But this isn't a platformer.
Well, I suppose
it is, but really, it's a point and click in the guise of a platformer. You solve puzzles.
I mean, that's an interesting dynamic. I mean, it sort of reminded me. I played this at the preview stage. It reminded me a bit of Trine. I don't know if you played Trine, but I mean, what did you think of the game overall? But I mean, people who just joined us, this is The Cave. It's out tomorrow on multiple platforms. Mark's just reviewed it. Your review's live now, so give us a bit of an overview of what you thought.
My overview is, if you want I'm going to jump to the end here and say 7.0, good. Right. I really liked it. Like I said, I think that the puzzles themselves work really, really well when you're playing through it. However, the control system when you're trying to control 3 characters at once is a bit irritating, like as mentioned. All it would take is a button to just push all the characters together. That's it. Like a quick button, they're back together, and then you don't have this sort of long process where, like Danny's doing now, he's having to go all the way back to this bit, and then that, and you have to do that 3 times.
Yeah.
With 3 characters, so it can be very frustrating.
Right.
The jokes are good.
I mean, you'd expect that, right? You'd hope that, I suppose.
Yeah, it's funny. It's quite dark as well, which I really liked. I like the fact it's so dark. One of the things about the cave is that the cave itself, as in the literal cave, is that it's basically this area where people go and it uncovers their deepest, darkest secrets.
Right.
So that happens to these characters as you play through. Like Danny here, you can see that he's playing as this future woman, and later on he'll get to an area where you find out all the dark things that she's done in her life.
Oh, okay.
Particularly one massive dark thing, and you have to play through that as like a puzzle section.
Right.
Which is really cool. Her one's really good because it involves time travel.
Okay.
And you sort of have to wrap your head around working in 3 different time periods.
Right. Okay.
While trying to solve the puzzle.
Okay.
Very cool.
Interesting. And so like each one's got a different ability, and that one is to die.
Her ability is to zap through objects. So if she can't do it with everything, if the object's too thick, she can't do it. But she can basically move from one area to the other like that, just through it. Which is really useful in certain sections. And the other thing about the game is that although there are areas where some abilities are used to essentially for their own sections, her ability is useful in some of the regular puzzles, not generic puzzles, but certainly the ones that are just there all the time, and can make them slightly easier.
Right. Yeah.
So depending on what character you pick, you might find an easier path through the game. So there's multiple paths.
So you're gonna have to sort of indulge me here, because when I was playing this, I played this multiplayer, single player.
Yeah.
Multiplayer I was doing okay. Single player I found it quite difficult. Might have just been that I was at a preview event and the pressure was on, and I didn't, you know. But I found that some of the puzzles were quite tricky. Did you struggle while you were reviewing?
Do you know the most I struggled was at the beginning and just getting used to the way it wants you to do things.
Right.
I think it really takes a while to wrap your head around it. Once you've done that, the puzzles, I mean, there was some I had to think about it, obviously. You want to be challenged, but it wasn't to the point where I was like,
utter frustration.
I hate this game, why?
So it's fair.
It's fair.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's fair, it's fun. And I enjoyed it more single player than I did multiplayer.
Okay.
For sure.
Pull the lever, you stupid, stupid. Oh.
Someone was asking why we're all in separate rooms. We're not actually. I know it's confusing on the live stream, potentially, because you can see Danny in one area. He's actually just sat right behind us.
He's also missed the most obvious reason why he can't pull that lever. What did you just do, Danny? You took the fuse to power those, didn't you?
Of course. God, I wouldn't be so embarrassed if I hadn't actually already done this one about 15 minutes ago. Hey, look, it's a Ron Gilbert game with a reference to Monkey Island.
Wrong!
Whoa!
Stop the presses.
There's a lot of hot dogs in this game as well.
Right, there's a lot of hot dogs, there's a lot of...
You use hot dogs several times.
Fuses. I've seen a lot of fuses in the game.
There's few fuse boxes, yeah.
And so Danny, how are you finding it so far?
It really feels like, he must get really sick of people referencing old games of his, but this really does feel like fetch questy, like Monkey Island stuff, when you basically got a finite amount of objects and you have to combine them in a preset way to get to the next section. The best part of this, which from what little experience I've had with it, I've played less than 20 minutes, is the dialogue so far. That's been pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool because the cave itself actually talks. It's a person, as it were.
Or a character.
Or a character, even.
Anthropomorphic cave.
Yes,
as it were.
And it has some of the best lines. The characters themselves don't speak.
Right.
So it's just the cave that sort of guides you through. Which, I think if you're used to that sort of constant talking of Ron Gilbert games, there's a lot of silence in here where you're left to ponder what it is you're doing.
This is a cool section. So let's just watch this. This is an example of one of the puzzles. So he's put a spike, sausage down a spike, and then used another fuse, and then...
Well, he summoned the monster using the bell, which came to look for the sausage, then he used the fuse on that, and then he's pulled the monster up, and now they can jump over the spikes and get into the next section.
Done. One of the things is, while I guess it could, I found it tricky, at least you're not punished for when you make a mistake on the platforming elements. You get respawned pretty close to where you were.
There's no game over screen, there are no lives. In fact, you can kill yourself at will just by holding down both the triggers. I mean, I don't know when you'd want to do that, but you can.
I do now.
There you go.
Ah.
Oh no, you went quite far back then. Sorry, Danny.
It usually puts you back closest to where you were, but I guess because he's just done that puzzle, it hasn't moved forward very much.
I think I was just at the checkpoint here. I think now. This is one of the few times I've seen them actually.
That's the only time they'll do it. Is when you get well. I think it's the only time you do it anyway. Don't quote me on that. It's when you get to the end of a section and then you jump down and they follow you.
These twins can hold their breath. Is that right, or is that another character?
No. They can't hold their breath. They can replicate themselves. It's called Ghost.
Right.
Because they're evil. Look at them. Look how evil they are. Evil twins.
So there. So for those of you that are watching on the live chat, just and you've got access to the chat, let us know. This is the cave. Let us know what you think. Whether you're anticipating the game. It does seem like a game that's kind of snuck out. I previewed it at the end of last year, but I don't know if it was on a lot of people's radars. Mark's reviewed it. He liked the game.
To be honest, I forgot it was coming in. It literally just turned up, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about the cave.
The cave, yeah. So let us know if you want to know anything about the game, or if you want Danny to show off any particular sections. Danny was very adamant about playing this game from the beginning and not having any hints as to what you might need to do.
It was really frustrating because Danny was on literally the first sort of puzzle in the game.
And you wanted to tell him.
And he was like, I don't know what to do. Like, it was the character select screen, essentially. And he was like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. And I was just like...
It was that whole thing of when you start with like I guess the 7 characters you can pick.
Yeah.
And you can either go left or go right. And game design would always tell you to go right. So maybe that's why I decided to go left, just to see what would happen. But yeah, I totally didn't think about going right. So.
And how are you finding it so far, Danny? What's your? I know we've had Mark's take on it. What do you think?
Like I said, like I haven't really played that much of it. The most interesting stuff has been just before we came up in the stream, actually, a little sort of one-on-one dialogue between the guy who's kind of running the cave, as it were, and the character you meet. It's really well animated, the sort of facial stuff, surprisingly, because the character model is actually really small. And yeah, it's cool. It's you know. This is pretty early days. I think I'm still in tutorial mode here. Like in the next.
You're still learning things.
Exactly. I mean, this is basically the sort of opening puzzle. You're not actually in the full cave yet. The quest here is essentially the guy at the desk of the cave wants you to bring 3 trinkets to him.
Right.
In order to let you into the main attraction. So Danny's found 2 of them. He's found that Thespian award. He's got the jeweled skull. I think there's one more somewhere. And yeah, he's got to bring them back, and then you'll hear some funny dialogue from the dude.
So let's watch the game for a couple of minutes. Hopefully Danny will be able to solve this puzzle and get a feel for the puzzle-solving elements.
I hope so.
But yeah, it's essentially a point and click. You gather objects, although you don't have an inventory. Okay. So that's one of the plus points of the game for me, is that everything you need to solve a certain puzzle is in that area. You just got to figure it out. And then you don't have to carry stuff around or worry that why didn't I get the dead rat from the thing earlier on? I have to go all the way back.
Right. And then another question was, apologies for whoever asked it, I didn't make a note of who it was. It was about game length, the amount of time, without spoiling. I mean, obviously, Mark, you probably breezed through it because you're a genius of great intellect. But how long would it take an average person, do you think?
I reckon you could probably do it in 3 or 4 hours.
Okay.
It's not massively long, but it is an XBLA title, don't forget.
Yeah.
It's not a full price release or anything like that.
Well, it's an XBLA, PlayStation Network, Wii U, PC, every platform.
It's an every platform title, but it's like, what's it, a tenner on PC?
You can buy it for, so in the UK you can buy it for, and we'll run down some of the prices later. We got £9.99 on Steam in the UK, $14.99 if you're in the US.
Right. Okay.
So does that sort of factor into it? Do you think?
I think it's fine. It's not overly short. And the thing about it is the replayability. If you want to see everything the game's got to offer, then you have to play through it more than once anyway.
Right.
With all the other characters. Okay. So there is a little bit of repetition in some of the puzzles.
Okay.
Some of the smaller ones and the final puzzle, but otherwise the ones in between are all going to be new.
Okay.
When you play with different characters.